Okay, these are my thoughts about election 2020 and about the whole political scene and how much we should be involved in it and what I think, this is my opinion, not biblical fact, the church's position should be at this time. First of all, I'm not sure about Trump losing. I pray he does. The guy is really bad, but if he's there to do a job, he's there to do a job. The skunk is there to do a job. The rat is there to do a job. They were created for purpose and reasons. Even though they're objectionable to us, they're there for a reason. So that's just the way it is. However, I believe that his job might be over at this time, rather. What I mean by might be over is I believe his job was to bring us into a place of division within the country, separation from the rest of the world, and to highlight perhaps the mindset of a wealthy bad actor, to elevate the issues between the races, and this is the scary part, to show the mindset of a deceived Christianity. Yeah, that's a good one. So I'm not sure if he's done. If he's done, then I believe Biden and Harris wins. I believe they win anyway because I feel that in light of all these things that I think he's done doing, the world is ready now to embrace a more liberal theology, doctrinology. It's ready for a kinder, gentler, Christian humanistic movement, courtesy of the evangelicals in Trump. Because in the effort of trying to do the will of God, they've done us in big time. Franklin Graham and Paula White and the rest, they really jacked us up. I'm a registered Republican and I'm a Christian, and I can see what they believe, but man, the package they wrapped it in, quite ugly, and frankly, makes it difficult for most Negroes and minorities to really take part in it. So they're their own worst nightmare. Much as they blame everybody else, they're the ones. You can't have righteousness without a sense of morality. And even the person who's modeling it or representing it at some level has to have some strand of decency in them. It may not be, the most pious person in the world, but man, they can't be going overboard. This guy has broken all the norms, created some and broke them. But this is the problem. The problem is that those Christians who support him in the name of getting the things they think will serve for God in the earth, have just looked the other way. Not only looked the other way, but they don't even see those things. But then they look back behind him and find flaws in people who are no longer in office. I'm just like, how do you find flaws in the people that are no longer in office, and the guy who's in real time in the position of power, you don't even can't see what he's done. And if you are seeing it, then you're hypocritical because you're not calling him out too. So I think that this is the season for softer, more liberal Christianity, which I don't agree with. But I think, like Esau, the Republicans and the evangelicals have done it to us. Whether they like to admit it or not, they have done it to us. They made the case. So we got to deal with this. So I believe that the church's position should be that of neutrality as it relates to trying to legislate morality, because you can't legislate morality. Shouldn't be, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm a preacher, pastor 35 years. You can't legislate morality. How do you start with whosoever will, let him come, and then end up with you're burning in hell if you don't do it my way? Really? God doesn't even do that. He at least waits for judgment day. So I think that we have to be neutral. I think voting this time is a principle. And it sounds really strange, but I'm going to say it this way. Based on the evidence of what one has seen, with the way this man has done what he has done and is doing, it's almost like voting is a statement about what you have witnessed. Not about what Biden and Harris are going to do. It's about what you've witnessed. Like, man, you know what? You almost convinced me not to be human anymore. And so I think that that's what's going on. I believe it'll be a landslide victory. I believe we'll know by midnight. I pray and hope we do, because it's going to be bad. Now, let me say this as an addendum. I don't know how the world moves on with a functioning Donald John Trump Sr. I don't know how we do it. He's dangerous. God has to quiet him down. And I don't know what that means. He may take his life, and I'm not desiring that for him at all. But maybe if he just gives him a condition where he can't talk no more and not use these fingers, then we'll be okay. But as long as this man has a voice, he is going to do damage. If he should lose, he pretty much, I'm sure him and Stephen Miller have contingency plans to do as much damage as possible for the effect that when Biden and Harris come into office, it'll get really, really bad afterwards. As he inherited a good economy, he wants them to inherit a worse economy or a worse situation, so he could be on the sideline saying they did it. So he's not a good player if he loses. He also won't attend the inauguration. He won't show, because that'll be his way of making a statement and his way of drawing in the radicals unto him to posture himself with his percentage, because that's the end game. I think he's decided if he's going to lose, he has an audience. He wants to keep his audience captive, and there's a lot of material to keep them captive. So, whereas I believe that he had an assignment to do things, and I believe that his time may be up, I also believe that many characters on the stage of humanity that had an assignment oftentimes went beyond that assignment, and God had to deal with them. Nebuchadnezzar comes to mind. God had to make him eat the grass. I think it was Agrippa that gave oration on a certain day, and the people said, it's the voice of a God. And because he didn't give God the glory, the Bible said an angel smote him, and immediately the worms would eat up his flesh. So, be careful. Even when God uses you to do nefarious things, as I think this was the case, you can go overboard. Lucifer, he was usable. But then he decided to go beyond what God was using him for and try to take over. So there is a tendency by those who God uses for whatever he does, use them for, to go above and beyond what he called them for. It's at that time that God does something about them. So I think God will put a check on him. Something will happen, and he will not interrupt the next chapter, because the next chapter is coming. And though this chapter is bad, and though it's objectionable, let me tell you the difference between this chapter and the next chapter. In this chapter, it's kind of watching one man on the stage, and the only way he gets into your life is if you turn on your television, or some of the things he does do trickle down, Ronald Reagan, do trickle down to you and affect you over time. This next group is not going to be quite like that. They're going to be proactive. They're going to be forceful. They are very smart. They will have a sense of morality, but they will have with it, they'll have the ability to really turn the screws and lock down a lot of the things that they've been musing over since he's been in office. And namely, their guns will be trained on Christianity to change it. I'm almost sure that they're going to win, because today one of the signals I looked for happened, and that was the Pope stating that he agrees to a certain degree with civil unions. Not that I'm saying for or against it, but I'm simply saying that to me is a signal of the next chapter. It's time to move towards the spirit of humanism with a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. So it's okay to vote. I'm not against voting. I just think you're hoping to vote is perhaps misguided at this time of the earth, because I believe prophecy drives this ship. I don't believe we do. I believe we can participate And it's okay. It's not sinful to do so, but we don't drive it. And I also say I don't believe this is the time for the clergy to be overly engaged in politics. I don't care what nobody tell you. I don't care what they say to you. That's not our station. They fight in Saul's armor. We fight with David's sling. Yes, we represent. Yes, we have concerns. But our mission is that of winning souls and reconciling the world to God. And to do that, you and I must understand what Paul told the young pastor Timothy. A man who God has called into this service, this is what Paul says, does not entangle himself with the cares and the affairs of this life. Now, you can try to interpret that any way you want to, preacher man. But at the end of the day, he says, you don't do that you might please him, who has called you to be a good soldier. So now you can try to reinterpret that and try to justify it with 7 strands from that text to civil actions and events, but you're getting nowhere with that because it's kind of clear to me. And if you sit down and look in the mirror, it's clear to you too. But we have a place. Our place is praying over the king, that the Lord might help us lead quiet and peaceable lives. But even in that, there are times when that prayer is not answered because that's not God's will. His will to stir up sometimes even affects us. And so we really have to think this through, choose our battles, and know that our responsibility is really unto those souls who will fear the time to come and recognize there is indeed a God, and they're looking for an altar to pray at and the people to pray with. And if we have our hands awash in politics, they can't trust us either. That's how Trump became president. They could no longer trust the politicians. So we don't want to mix with that. It's called Laodicea, mixed marriage. So those are my thoughts, and I hope that you learned something. God bless you.